bringing us together. I've worked with a bunch of tech leads, senior software engineers, engineering managers, VPs of engineering. I'm fascinated by the transition that people make from IC to leading. It's just such an interesting journey that everyone goes through. And so I'm really curious about your experience and what you've learned on your journey.
My name is Daniele. Briefly, I have around 10 years of experience in the industry with 3 years in a leadership position. My background, anyway, my core is a software engineer. That will be my core, I guess, whether my title is team lead developer or...
You know, what you just said just triggered something in me, which is there's like this, at least you tell me if I'm wrong or not, but there's this like innate motivation to fix things. Would you characterize it as fixing things or solving problems? Like where do you get your motivation from?
So there's a strong motivation in improving things, I would say.
Okay.
In improving everything, both my knowledge or any system I might be into. This happens also in my private life. For me, my relationship with my partner, it's a small 2-people company to continuously adjust, improve, study, understand, and so on. Because I think that, I mean, it's deeply fulfilling making things better, because it means you need to challenges in understanding how a system works. You need to learn something. I love learning. I love reading. So there are so many challenges and inner fulfilling, let's say, motivations, which brings me to, okay, let's get better continuously.
Mm-hmm. And how do you bring people along with you? Like, because you have that really strong desire, but what if you're working with people who, you know, want to stay in their comfort zone because it's comfortable?
So if you want to stay in your comfort zone, usually it's very hard to collaborate with me. So that's the reality. I'm very honest with it. So I need to be surrounded by people who have a strong desire of perfect their skills, their knowledge, the process they are part of within an organization. Indeed, I'm in my third company, exactly because in the first 2 companies, I was not able to have such involvement from other people. Here in Bonial is different. And even though there are some parts of the system which offers resistance, which are still anchored to the status quo, there are also parts of the system which are very dynamic and open and willing to change. How I try to involve these people? Well, for sure, communicating your ideas, your vision constantly. That's a very important factor. You need to try to inspire them. Sometimes I inspire them. Sometimes I make them bored. So it's not easy to distinguish both situations. You need to deeply educate yourself on the topics you want to build your narrative around, because otherwise it's very hard to be convincing. It's very, very hard. And people who have doubts will ask many questions, will challenge your ideas. And you need to get ready to answer these questions, because when you want to build a strong narratives and you show doubts in the moment your narrative is challenged, that's become very difficult.
I mean, I'm in a situation now where my sense is that some people are just want to be given the answer, right? Just give me the answer, tell me what to do. And in my own personal improvement experience, I've also been like that, especially like when it comes to like physical fitness. You know, I was like for years just going to a personal trainer saying, just tell me what to do and I'll do it, because I can't, it's too much for me to think about how I'm going to do it. So how do you balance that between helping people discover how to solve the problem themselves, or you telling them how to solve the problem?
yesterday during the training, we were actually discussing if the assumptions behind servant leadership are actually correct, that every person would like to be empowered, and it's a strong assumption. Is this true? Maybe, we don't know. So in my experience, there are some cases where you cannot do anything. Just you cannot do anything, and the sooner you give up, the better it is, because it becomes just frustrating. So it's important to recognize such situation. How to help people to search for the answer instead of giving the answer? Well, stopping giving the answer is a good starting point. Now it's you. Let's see how you move. For example, 1 year ago, we were still kind of assigning tickets during the planning session. Yeah, not me, but the whole team. And this was creating in a junior a good feeling of safety. Everything is structured, ordered. I know what I have to do. From my point of view, as a too rigid approach, I want to give more freedom to them. And initially, he complained. He was missing this aspect of having this structured order. Case, you need to be very persistent, because in the moment you see doubt or difficulties in other people, and your instinct is to help them or to make them again safe, then you lose chances for change. So you need to be persistent, and you know that some people might take months to understand the change and fully embracing. So persistency, I think it's a key aspect.
Did it ever backfire on you?
I think in Bonial never. In the last 12 months, we enabled so many changes within our team that, okay, some of them is full embracing them, some of them. Of course, you need to also have flexibility as a leader. For example, I'm introducing since quite a long time pair programming. Some people just don't like to do pair programming. In the moment I would force and insist to do pair programming with these people, in that case, it would backfire. They would lose motivation, because behind pair programming, there is not only writing code with another person, but about a certain collaboration to people very, very close. As some people just don't like it. So if I would insist in these cases, it would backfire. In this case, I need to understand, okay, this is what he wants. I'm fine with it. So some flexibility is also required, persistency and flexibility.
Yeah. And it's also, people are at different stages also, right? So when you're working with a team, it's like there's a variety of where people are at and what their preferences are. And one person likes this, the other person likes that, the other one doesn't really care. And, how do you like bring all of that together into something?
So different stages. The first difference in stages is, let's say, the experience. But it's different getting a junior onboarded on a new practice compared to someone who is a software engineer since 10 years. In particular, connecting what I said before about you need to deeply educate yourself. The seniors will challenge your ideas, and with strong arguments often. So you need to have very, very strong counter arguments. While of course with people with less experience, they're learning now their craft, so they are more open to embrace certain practices. In terms of motivation, I think also there I cannot be a perfectionist. I need to accept that with some people I will reach only a certain degree of involvement. And that's fine. I think as a leader, I need to set the bare minimum of what I'm expecting from the team, and this has to be very clear. And everyone has to meet this bare minimum, and I need to set it very carefully, because if I set it wrongly, it might backfire. Once I set this bare minimum, then if you're just above or if you're a lot above, I'm fine with both situations.
Mm-hmm. That's super interesting what you said about like setting expectations. How do you do that? Like how does it look like when you're setting baseline, basic expectations?
A couple of weeks ago, I created a new documentation page in our Macau space exactly about mutual expectations, because we had the new onboarding started a couple of weeks ago, and we faced this problem, let's say. So far, it was pretty implicit. We were having conversation, and we were having also some final onboarding session about expectations. Now it's an official agreement, let's say. How do I set expectation? Both explicitly, often our meeting where I tell you exactly what I'm expecting from you as a software engineer, and what you need to expect from me as a team lead. I often tell my team members, be very demanding with me. Don't accept mediocrity, never. Sometimes I need to tell them, hey, you told me nothing about this mistake I did. You should have told me. No, it's fine. No, it's not fine. I'm your team lead. Be very demanding. So expectations in terms of clear contract agreements. Big part of the actual expectations are set implicitly in the way we do a code review. Implicitly, I'm expecting high quality and certain kind of collaboration in the way we run a meeting, in terms of jumping on a topic, sharing your opinion, letting other people talk. So there are so many small things which you cannot, let's say, include in a page, but you need to slowly touch during the whole process.
Makes sense.
You would take a step back, Daniele, and think like holistically, if you would be to share with someone your leadership philosophy, like key aspects of what is important to you when working with your team as a team lead, and then also with your first team, which are fellow team leads or other managers across the organization. I'm very curious.
So it's important you define your identity. Even if it's a different identity than mine, but you need to define your identity. We were discussing a couple of days ago regarding this kind of role definition process, which starts with formal responsibilities. As a team lead, you expect 1, 2, 3. Authority, which becomes blurred and ends up in what's your inner commitment, or maybe what's your mission. So the first thing is try to find your mission. It might take years. It might never happen. But try to understand, okay, one of my goals is to find the mission. Why? Because only if you find the mission, you have a very strong inner matrix of values and principles against which you can match your actions. Because inevitably, situations will become tough. It's part of the complexity of our business. You need some strong inner help in understanding, okay, do I go for A or do I go for B? As a leader, you shape culture all the time. Whatever you write in a Slack, whatever you say in a meeting, you shape culture all the time. That's very important for you to understand it. It's a continuous culture which is being shaped by you, which means you need to pay attention to a lot of things you do and you say. And some of these things inevitably will be wrong. So you need to have a good self-reflection and self-awareness. This is a critical point. Another fundamental aspect, I think, is psychological safety, in particular vulnerability. Show vulnerability in front of your team, not only in a one-on-one, which is okay. In a group situation, it's fundamental to build a psychological safe environment. I see not too often words like "I'm sorry, it was my mistake" pronounced. People are afraid to say "I'm sorry." They should not be afraid. Unfortunately, we are still maybe a bit trapped into an idea of a strong leader who never makes mistakes. So it's a fact, unfortunately. Regarding the relationship I have also with my peers, were you asking? And with my manager. That's tricky because, as I told you, I can be a person with whom it's not super easy to collaborate in terms of need for changes, need for improvements. And right now, actually, within the process of, for the first time, involving my peers into a very important topic within a technology organization. which is about quality and technical excellence. And because I realized that yes, it's great if you enable change within your team. Yes, you can share everything with your manager, and you can have presentation within certain groups. But then, if you want to enable certain kind of change, you need to try to bring your peers closer to you. Try to build a small community, and this is what I'm trying to do right now. Purely about this topic of pressure and technical excellence. Of course, I need to understand also what resonates with them. We might be very different, but in the moment I pronounce pressure and technical excellence, everyone, oh, interesting, okay, can I be involved? So I need to understand also what they resonate with. I cannot say, hey, this is important for me, let's go together. No. So that's super, super important. And that's it. Of course, I can tell you basic things in terms of authenticity, etc. But those are, let's say, things that you need to. It's not part of my philosophy. You just need to have them as a good professional.
One reason why we invite leads to conversations is to share with other people in this leadership community. And I'm very curious about, you say, pay attention to yourself, self-awareness and self-reflection. What is like a tool that you have or what you're using that others can benefit from?
A tool that I use. Overthinking can be a weakness and a strength. Can be a weakness in the moment does not translate into actions and into improvements, and you are there with your thoughts and you are trapped within your thoughts. While you can actually leverage, let's say, deep continuous thinking and reflection of what you do, with the idea of translating into an action, into a feedback, into a decision, into something else. And deep thinking requires time. If you are trapped into a business culture where everyone is overwhelmed, overloaded, you won't have time to think. Often I hear, in order to understand the work, you need to understand how the work works. And to do that, you need to think. If you're only busy to do the work, you will never understand the whole picture. So take time to think, take buffers, take breaks, because you need them. They're fundamental. If you're too busy, it's very hard to create moments of self-reflection within your professional life.
I think this resonates deeply with our philosophy. And so we have 10 more minutes, and I would like to hand the mic over to you, Daniele. What are topics that are on top of your mind, on top of your heart, that like don't sit right, or you're very excited about when it comes to leadership that you would like to speak here about for 8 minutes? We can speak about.
Well, as you know, for sure, people, it's inevitably a topic which is becoming more and more relevant in the last months. And unfortunately, it's so common word, people, of course, people, that there is not enough thinking around the meaning of and the role of people within an organization. We take it for granted. I see that we take it for granted. Yes, you have the principle, people at the center. Yeah. And then what do you do? How do you really enable it? Mm-hmm. How do you translate it into strong actions? Not even action, strong actions. That's super complicated, because unless you live in a company which has this great system optimization, where every decision is optimal for the whole, for the benefit of the whole system, and of course, people are the most important asset of a system. Unless you work in this company, I don't know if they exist, I have to be honest. Inevitably, if you want to put people at the center of your leadership philosophy, you are going to create some tension. You're going to be forced to push back the system, which maybe is pushing into another direction. You are going to maybe piss off some of your stakeholders. So there are some consequences in putting people at the center. And you need to have the courage of dealing with them. Maybe you need to make your product manager unhappy. Yes, because your team comes before anything else. It's very complicated, and maybe could make it more explicit. You start the leadership position, and I had no idea of how things would have evolved. No one gave me a direction. Hey, you need to find your mission. I had to find out these things on my own. Would have been great saying, okay, now you're a team lead, deep dive into people and the role that the people have in your life, their mental health, their growth, their development. Or deep dive in yourself in terms of understanding your mission, create a path for yourself. So having some kind of goals as a new lead would have helped, instead of searching all these things on your own, because it took years, might take about 10 years, whatever. It's anyway, people is definitely my keyword.
People is so complicated too.
Exactly. Yesterday I was thinking during a training, I was with less experience, let's say, team lead, and the first part of the training was about differences between a manager and a leader. I came late, so I only saw the post-it on the wall. And they start to talk about soft skills and hard skills, which is a bit of an old way of grouping such skills.
Yeah.
Not only seems that soft skills are less important, but it seems also they are easier. Learning how to code, you need to study books. While soft skills, people. Unfortunately, understanding people, it's way more complicated than understanding software systems. Way more complicated. That's the problem. Those are the very hard skills.
And I love what some call them life skills. It's not soft skills, but life skills around communication, relational intelligence, human biology, like what do we need? But like one thing that caught my attention, Daniele, is my team comes before anything else. Who's your team in this equation?
Well, my direct reports.
Your direct reports.
My direct reports. They're the most important stakeholders. You have tons of stakeholders, and sometimes, reflecting on my role, team lead, there is the word team in my title. They must be my most important stakeholders.
And therefore, your leads, most important stakeholders are including you, right? So it should be the cascade then.
In an ideal world, yes.
To close this conversation, I would have no, Mel, you have time for one more question, Mel. I have
time for one more question.
Yeah.
What's the most important thing you've learned about yourself in this process of becoming a lead?
You can spend a whole life understanding where your need of control comes, where your command and control attitude comes, your parents, the school, genetics, whatever. Or you can decide which kind of leader you want to be, write it on the paper in front of you, and from that moment on, every action and everything you say, you think, you compare it with the person you want to be, the leader you want to be, and understand, okay, how far I am from the person I want to be. And in this way, you can enable a lot of changes inside you, and also pretty fast, I think.
Love it.
I will do this today. Thank you, Daniela. I will literally write this on this post card. Wow, it's very powerful. Thank you. Great question. To wrap it up, give us one question. This is from the Diaries of a CEO Stolen. I just thought of this. I remembered this. Give us one question that you want us to ask the next person we interview on the topic of leadership.
Next question you need to ask is, what's your mission as a leader?
Thank you for your time and energy and love, Daniele.
Thank you a lot. Thank you a lot.
Bye-bye.